such a shame that I think the system missed a trick in the 90s and didn't change from a T1 to, say, a Hawk 100 or 200 back then, sort of family of aeroplane. So fundamentally a Hawk T1 body, fuselage, etc., but with a hugely upgraded cockpit. So without a doubt, Typhoon at this point is just over the horizon. So that we know what a Typhoon looks like. And the Typhoon cockpit really hasn't changed much over the 20, 25 years it's been in service, as far as I know. I'm sure, the avionics will have, but the hardware, as far as I'm aware, is very similar to when they first came into service. But even then, you're looking at multifunction color displays, 3 of them, head-up display, etc., HOTAS. All of this is coming to the fore in the jets that are not only in service, i.e. the Harrier, but the future, as in Typhoon, and the future, which is F-35. And the T1, which has only just gone out of service, really, in my opinion, and it is my opinion, should have been looked at, the replacement should have been looked at well earlier than the Hawk T2 was. And we know the recent history with the Hawk T2, it hasn't really been a success story that everybody thought it was going to be. It has had its issues, it has had its problems. Show me an aircraft, though, that has come into service without any problems, and you'll show me a miracle. We all know that aircraft have teething issues, but over time they tend to be ironed out. The Hawk T2 seems not to have been sorted out in the way that perhaps other aircraft types have been when they've come into service with issues. Let's put it that way. So I think there was a lost opportunity, and dare I say that probably a little bit of lack of foresight. And I'm not the only person to believe this either. There was a lot of chat going around the crew rooms late 90s about the T1 and the fact that it had just had a massive re-winging program, and it also had a huge rear fuselage reinforcement program as well. So it was basically putting sort of sticking plasters over the long-term problem, which was the Hawk T1 is very much a map and stopwatch airplane. There's nothing in a T1. If you look at a photograph of a Red Arrows cockpit, or just Google Hawk T1, to be honest. It doesn't have to be a Hawk from the Reds. The cockpits are identical, but they are definitely of a vintage, and not even of an age. They are of a vintage, and that vintage is 1960s. To be brutally honest, it's fundamentally a 1960s cockpit that took us through fast jet training, feeding into some quite slick machines, right up until recent times. So
do you think even in the 90s you were like pilots and like yourself and were thinking T1 should be upgraded to a more modern cockpit rather than getting a new airframe?
Absolutely. Obviously the human machine interface is the cockpit, and every pilot wants for want of a better phrase, a Gucci cockpit, don't they? They want to have a slick color display, perhaps. This technology was there to be had. So yes, from a pilot's perspective, obviously you always want the best thing on the off the shelf. The fact that the cockpit wasn't touched at all, and yet the whole back end and the wing was, and gave the whole fleet a new lease of life for another 20 years. It was a missed opportunity. Is all I'll say. It's such a shame that the avionics. Not that it has avionics. I mean, let's be honest. It's a steam-driven cockpit. It's all dials, and it's all it's all old instrumentation. No head-up display. There's a gun sight in the weapons Hawk T1, but fundamentally, it's all steam-driven dials and gauges and the like, and lights and whatever. It's an old cockpit. It's old technology, and it was old in 95 to 2000. When I was training on it and ultimately teaching on it. We'll come on to that. But it was proper map and stopwatch. You run around, you manually hack a watch, you've got a map on your lap, and you fly a compass heading off a compass which is subject to errors. There's no GPS in it, and there never was. There There was no GPS in it. 100 Squadron, they had a bolt-on GPS. They were doing a different role though, so they were allowed to put they had a bolt-on GPS. But certainly, my time on the Hawk T1, there was nothing like that at all. So yeah, a missed opportunity. We all thought, hey, what a shame that we weren't, especially when you see a BAE Systems brochure, in the crew room, and it's the Hawk 100, 200 series, and it's ripe for export. Absolutely, off it went, and it was exported. And you look at the cockpit, and the jet's got a radar. It's a trainer, and it's got a radar in it, and you go, ooh, wouldn't that be nice? When you're struggling to do your synthetic 2v1 air defense setups with a ground controlled interceptor, in one ear, and you're literally doing it through trigonometry and a compass rose, and that's fundamentally how we used to do it. You suddenly go, yeah, actually, it would be good to introduce a little bit of radar theory into the advanced syllabus ahead of sending people to the Tornado F3. There was a lot of feedback when I was instructor, sort of digress here, but when I was an instructor after the Harrier, which was back to Valley as a tactics instructor, there was a lot of feedback coming back from the F3 that students hadn't really got that ability, or that knowledge, I should say, not the ability, beg your pardon, the knowledge base, jumping from a Hawk T1, map and stopwatch, completely synthetic, trigonometry-based 2 versus 1 beyond visual range air defense setups, to all singing, all dancing, radar, navigator in the back, proper air defense machine. There was too much of a capability gap between the T1 and what we could offer as instructors on the syllabus we were training and the front line. And that feedback came back from the F3, from 56 Squadron at Coningsby, which was the conversion unit at the time. And the ex F3 guys who were instructors at Valley just went, right, okay, we can do something about this. Let's fundamentally redefine the air defense syllabus. So they did. They went away. They teased it apart. They put it back together again, and with that input from 56 Squadron. But fundamentally, you're still running around with a non-radar map and stopwatch airplane. So there's only so much you can do. But the answer to that was, well, the Hawk T2's coming, which has synthetic radar and has a much better cockpit and all the rest of it. But it was by the time the T2 came in, there's a whole generation, if not 2 generations, of pilots have been trained on the Hawk T1 and gone to the Harrier, a very, very capable Tornado F3. Let's not beat about the bush. The Tornado F3 was very capable by the time it exited service. Oh, yeah. And then you've got the GR4, which is the GR1 upgrade. So again, a wholly different machine and immensely capable. It's a debate that rages to this day. And I read only yesterday that the T7 could be on the cards as a Hawk T2 replacement. That's going to be an interesting debate, because
it's almost like a light strike fighter, isn't it? It doesn't seem. It seems too advanced for a trainer, or is it not? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a debate.
It's replacing the T38, and you look at the T38, and that hasn't been, breathed on reference upgrades for decades either. So I don't think we're alone with the T1 versus the frontline capability gap. We're not unique. We're not the only air force, in the world that has either had that problem in the past or is facing it right now. The T-38, you think America, with all its, its defense budget and all the rest of it, why didn't the T-38 go years ago? But it didn't, and these decisions are made, well above any of our pay grades. So, you have to live with them.